1. I had been working as a food delivery courier for a few months, trying to make some extra money to pay off my debts. It was not an easy job, especially in Paris, where the traffic was always chaotic, and the customers were often impatient and rude. But I liked the challenge and the freedom of being my own boss. One night, in October 2021, I received an order for a pizza from a restaurant near the Eiffel Tower. The customer's address was in a residential area not far from the River Seine. I checked the map on my phone and saw that it was about 15 minutes away by car. I accepted the order and drove to the restaurant. The pizza was ready when I arrived. I put it in the insulated bag and scanned the QR code on the receipt. The app showed me the customer's name, phone number, and a picture of his face. He looked like a young man with blonde hair and blue eyes. He had a smile on his face and a friendly expression. His name was Lucas. I got back in my car and followed the GPS directions to his address. It was a quiet street, lined with old buildings and trees. I parked near the entrance of his apartment building and took out the pizza. I called his number and waited for him to answer. "Hello, this is Lucas." "Who is this?" he said in a cheerful voice. "Hi, Lucas. This is your food delivery courier. I have your pizza. I'm outside your building. Can you come down and get it?" I said. Sure. I'll be right there. Thank you so much," he said. He sounded very nice and polite. I thought he would be a good tipper. I waited for him to come down. A few minutes later, I saw him walking towards me. He was wearing a black hoodie and jeans. He waved at me and smiled. "Hey, there you are. Thanks for coming so fast. You're awesome," he said. He reached for the pizza, but I held it back. "Sorry, Lucas. You have to pay first. It's 15 euros. You can pay by cash or card. Whatever you prefer," I said. He looked at me with a puzzled expression. "Pay? What do you mean pay? I already paid online." "Don't you know that?" he said. I checked the app again. It showed that he had not paid online. He had chosen the option to pay on delivery. "No, Lucas, you didn't pay online. You chose to pay on delivery. See?" I said, showing him the screen. He shook his head and frowned. "That's impossible. I always pay online. There must be some mistake." "Let me see your phone," he said. He tried to grab my phone, but I instinctively pulled it back, holding it out of his reach. "Sorry, I can't let you see my phone. You need to pay for the pizza first," I insisted, my tone becoming firmer. Lucas's expression shifted from confusion to irritation. "This is ridiculous. I'm not paying twice for the same pizza. Just give it to me." Before I could respond, he suddenly stepped back and made a quick phone call. Within minutes, a group of Lucas's friends arrived, surrounding me with an aggressive stance. They demanded I hand over the pizza without payment, claiming they wouldn't tolerate any delay in receiving what they'd ordered. Feeling outnumbered and anxious about the escalating situation, I attempted to diffuse the tension by explaining the payment process again. However, their impatience grew into hostility, and they forcibly grabbed the pizza from my hands. Disturbed and concerned, I attempted to leave the scene and call the police. But before I could do so, one of Lucas's friends physically restrained me, while another took my phone, preventing any further communication. As they fled with the pizza, leaving me stranded and bewildered, I decided to approach the nearest police station to report the incident. With a description of Lucas and his accomplices, the authorities began their investigation. Days later, the police apprehended Lucas and his friends, who were caught in possession of the stolen pizza. The legal proceedings began, and they were tried according to the law for robbery and assault. Recognizing the severity of their actions, the court imposed appropriate consequences, emphasizing the importance of respecting service providers and adhering to the law. Reflecting on the incident, I learned to be cautious and aware, especially in unfamiliar or potentially risky situations. Despite the distressing experience, it reinforced the significance of standing up for what is right and seeking justice through proper channels. It was a cold and snowy night in Berlin. I was working as a food delivery courier for a pizza chain. I had been doing this job for a few months, and it was not too bad. I got to ride my bike around the city, listen to music, and earn some extra cash. The only downside was that sometimes I had to deal with rude or weird customers, but that was rare. I checked my phone and saw that I had one more order to deliver before I could go home. It was a large pepperoni pizza and a bottle of Coke. The address was in a residential area, not too far from where I was. I put the order in my insulated backpack and got on my bike. I hoped that the customer would be nice and tip me well. I arrived at the destination in about 15 minutes. It was a small and old house with a faded number on the door. I rang the bell and waited. No one answered. I rang again and still nothing. I checked the phone number on the receipt and decided to call the customer. "Hello," a raspy voice answered. "Hi, this is the pizza delivery. I'm outside your door." "Oh, right, sorry, I forgot." Come in. The door is open." I found that strange, but I shrugged it off. Maybe the customer was elderly or disabled and couldn't get to the door. I opened the door and stepped inside. The house was dark and messy. There were piles of clothes, books, and papers everywhere. The air smelled stale and musty. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Hello," I called out. "Where are you?" "I'm in the living room." Come here. I followed the voice to the living room. There was a dim light coming from a small TV. On the couch, I saw a man sitting. He was thin and pale, with long and greasy hair. He was wearing a dirty bathrobe and slippers. He looked at me with a blank expression. "Hi, I have your order. That'll be 15 euros, please," I said, trying to sound cheerful. He didn't say anything. He just stared at me. I felt uneasy. Something was wrong with this guy. "Sir, do you have the money?" I asked. He slowly reached for his pocket. I thought he was going to take out his wallet, but instead he pulled out a hammer. He jumped off the couch and swung it at me. I barely dodged it. He missed my head by inches. "What the hell?" I shouted. "Are you crazy?" He didn't answer. He just kept swinging the hammer at me. He was fast and furious. He looked like he wanted to kill me. I dropped the backpack and ran for the door. He chased me. I reached the door and tried to open it, but it was locked. He had locked it behind me. I panicked. I looked around for a way out. I saw a window next to the door. I grabbed a chair and smashed it against the glass. The window shattered. I climbed through the opening, cutting myself on the shards. I felt blood dripping from my hands and face. I didn't care. I just wanted to get away from this psycho. I got out of the house and ran to my bike. He followed me. He threw the hammer at me. It missed me and hit my bike. The bike fell over. I cursed. I had no time to pick it up. I ran to the street. I saw a car passing by. I waved my arms and yelled for help. "Help! Help! This guy is trying to kill me." The car stopped. It was a police car. 2 officers got out. They saw me and the man. They drew their guns and pointed them at him. "Freeze! Drop the weapon," one of them shouted. The man didn't listen. He ran towards them. He still had the hammer in his hand. He raised it and tried to hit one of the officers. The other officer shot him. He fell to the ground. He was still alive, but wounded. The officers handcuffed him and called for backup. They also called for an ambulance. They came to me and asked me if I was okay. I told them what happened. They said that I was lucky to be alive. They said that the man was a known drug addict and had a history of mental illness. They said that he had ordered the pizza with a stolen credit card. They said that they would take him to the hospital and then to jail. They said that I should go to the hospital too, to treat my injuries. I agreed. I was in shock. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I had almost died. Over a pizza. It was insane. I got in the ambulance and left the scene. I looked at the house. It was surrounded by police tape. I saw my bike on the ground. It was ruined. I sighed. I would have to buy a new one. I decided that I would quit my job as a food delivery courier. It was too dangerous. I would find something else to do, something safer. I had been working as a food delivery courier for a few months, trying to make some extra money while studying at college. It was not an easy job, especially in New York, where the traffic was always chaotic and the customers were often rude. But I needed the cash, and I liked the flexibility of choosing my own hours. One day, in June 2013, I got an order from a restaurant called The Spicy Chicken. It was a large order with several dishes and drinks, and the destination was an apartment building in Manhattan. I checked the address on my phone and saw that it was about 20 minutes away by bike. I packed the food in my insulated bag and headed out. I arrived at the building and rang the buzzer for the customer's apartment. A voice answered, sounding impatient and annoyed. "Who is it?" "Food delivery from the Spicy Chicken." Finally, "Come up to the 5th floor, apartment 5B. I took the elevator and knocked on the door of 5B. The door opened, and I saw a man standing there, wearing a stained t-shirt and sweatpants. He had a scruffy beard and a sour expression. He looked at me and the food bag with contempt. "What took you so long?" "I ordered this an hour ago." "I'm sorry, sir, but there was a lot of traffic and the restaurant was busy. I tried to get here as fast as I could." He snorted and grabbed the bag from my hands. He opened it and peeked inside. His face twisted in anger. "What is this crap? This is not what I ordered. Where are the wings? Where are the fries? Where is the soda?" He threw the bag on the floor and the food spilled out. I was shocked and confused. I checked the receipt and saw that everything was correct. I had delivered exactly what he had ordered. "Sir, I think there's a mistake. This is what you ordered. See, it says here on the receipt." He glared at me and pointed a finger at my face. "Don't you lie to me, you little punk. You think you can cheat me out of my money? You think you can bring me this garbage and expect me to pay for it? You must be out of your mind." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a brass knuckle. He slipped it on his hand and clenched his fist. "I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget. I'm going to make you pay for this." He swung his fist at me, aiming for my head. I dodged to the side and avoided the blow. He missed me and hit the wall instead. He cursed and tried to hit me again. I backed away and ran towards the door. He chased after me, swinging his fist wildly. I reached the door and opened it. It was right behind me. He grabbed my shoulder and pulled at my bag, but I managed to slip away. With adrenaline coursing through me, I dashed out into the hallway and sprinted for the elevator. As I reached it, I repeatedly pressed the button, praying for it to arrive quickly. Thankfully, the elevator doors opened just in time. I rushed inside, frantically jabbing the button for the ground floor. The man yelled after me, furious at my escape. The doors closed, and I descended, feeling a mix of fear and relief. Once I reached the ground floor, I burst out of the building and took off on my bike as fast as I could, not stopping until I was blocks away, panting and shaking. Shaken by the incident, I quickly dialed emergency services. Within minutes, the police arrived at the scene to handle the situation. I recounted the harrowing experience to the officers, providing as much detail as I could about the man and the altercation that had taken place. The authorities assured me they would investigate the matter thoroughly, and I provided them with the relevant details from the order and the customer's address. They thanked me for reporting the incident and advised me to be cautious in similar situations in the future. I took a moment to compose myself before resuming my work, albeit more cautious and vigilant than before. That unsettling encounter stayed with me, a stark reminder of the risks that sometimes accompany the job. My name is Alex, and I work as a courier for a food delivery service in Chicago. I like my job because it gives me flexibility and freedom. I can choose my own hours, listen to music while I drive, and meet different people every day. I also enjoy the thrill of delivering food as fast as possible, especially when I get a good tip. On a cold and rainy night in November 2019, I received an order from a customer who lived in a sketchy neighborhood. The order was for a large pizza, a 6-pack of beer, and a pack of cigarettes. I thought it was a strange combination, but I didn't judge. I just wanted to get the order done and move on to the next one. I drove to the address, then parked my car in front of a rundown apartment building. I grabbed the order and walked to the door. I knocked and waited for a response. I heard some shuffling and mumbling from inside, then the door opened. The customer was a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard and bloodshot eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept or showered in days. He was wearing a stained t-shirt and ripped jeans. He smelled like alcohol and smoke. He stared at me with a blank expression and said, "Who are you?" "I'm Alex, your food delivery guy," I said, holding out the order. "I have your pizza, beer, and cigarettes." He squinted and said, "I didn't order any pizza, beer, or cigarettes." I was confused and checked my phone. I showed him the confirmation screen and said, "Yes, you did. See, this is your name, address, and order. You paid online with your credit card." He shook his head and said, No. That's not me. That's not my name, address, or order. You got the wrong guy. Get out of here." I was getting annoyed and said, "Look, buddy, I don't have time for this. This is the right address and the right order. You ordered it, you pay for it. Now, please take your food and let me go." He suddenly grabbed a knife from behind the door and lunged at me. He slashed at me with the knife, trying to stab me in the chest. I dodged and backed away, dropping the order. He followed me and swung the knife again, cutting my arm. I screamed and kicked him in the groin, causing him to double over in pain. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I quickly grabbed the dropped order and bolted out of the apartment building, sprinting back to my car. Shaking and bleeding from the cut on my arm, I called 911 while speeding away from the dangerous scene. Within minutes, police cars arrived at the location. They found the man still hunched over, trying to recover from the pain of my kick. He was arrested and taken into custody. The incident shook me to the core. I had narrowly escaped a potentially life-threatening situation, and the gravity of it sank in as I drove to the nearest hospital to get my arm treated. The news of the attack spread, and the story gained attention, especially as it involved a delivery gone awry and a violent encounter. As the legal proceedings unfolded, it was revealed that the man, in a state of inebriation and delirium, had mistaken me for someone else, a person he believed was threatening him. However, it was evident that the aggression he displayed was unjustifiable. Moreover, during the investigation, it came to light that the man had a history of violent behavior and had been previously charged with assault. During the trial, witnesses, including myself, testified about the events that took place that fateful night. The man's defense attempted to argue that his actions were due to a state of confusion and intoxication, but the evidence against him was substantial. Ultimately, the jury had found him guilty of assault with a deadly weapon. The court sentenced the man to a considerable term in prison, emphasizing the need for rehabilitation due to his recurring violent tendencies. The incident made me more cautious during deliveries, prompting me to prioritize safety measures and be more vigilant, especially in unfamiliar or risky areas. Months after the trial, I received counseling to cope with the trauma of the attack. Despite the fear and distress it caused, I continued working as a courier, but with a heightened awareness of the potential dangers that lurked in my everyday encounters. My name is Eddie, and I used to love my job as a delivery man. I worked for a popular pizza chain in New York City, and I enjoyed riding my bike through the busy streets, delivering hot and cheesy slices to hungry customers. I felt like I was doing something good, something that made people happy. I also liked the freedom of being out on my own, the rush of the wind in my face, and the thrill of dodging traffic and pedestrians. It was a fun and exciting way to make a living. But everything changed on that fateful day in June 2017. It was a sunny and warm afternoon, and I had just picked up a large order from the store. It was for a birthday party at a nearby apartment building, and I was looking forward to getting a big tip. I strapped the pizza boxes to the back of my bike, and I took off towards my destination. I was riding along the busy avenue when I noticed two men standing on the sidewalk near a corner. They were wearing hoodies and masks, and they looked suspicious. They seemed to be watching me as I approached them, and I felt a sudden chill in my spine. I tried to ignore them and keep going, but as I passed them, they suddenly jumped in front of me, blocking my way. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. I crashed into them, and we all fell to the ground. The pizza boxes flew off my bike, and the slices spilled out on the pavement. Before I could get up, the two men started punching and kicking me, hitting me in the face, the chest, and the stomach. I felt a sharp pain in my ribs, and I tasted blood in my mouth. I tried to fight back, but they were too strong and fast. They overpowered me, and then they grabbed my bike and the pizza boxes and ran away. I was left lying on the ground, battered and bruised, wondering what had just happened. I couldn't believe that someone would do this to me for no reason. I didn't know who they were or what they wanted. Maybe they were hungry, or maybe they just hated me. Maybe they were part of a gang, or maybe they were just bored. I didn't know, and I didn't care. All I knew was that I was hurt, and I needed help. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. My arms and legs were broken, and I had suffered a concussion. I felt dizzy and nauseous, and I couldn't see clearly. I started to lose consciousness, and I thought I was going to die. I prayed that someone would find me and call 911. Luckily, someone did. A passerby had seen what happened, and he had called the ambulance. He also stayed with me and tried to comfort me. He told me his name was Sam, and he was a journalist. He said he was sorry for what happened to me, and he asked me some questions about the attack. He said he wanted to write a story about it and expose the violence and insecurity faced by delivery workers in the city. He said he hoped that his story would make a difference and that things would get better. I appreciated his kindness, and I told him everything I could remember. I gave him my name, my age, and my employer. I described the attackers as two men in their early 20s, wearing hoodies and masks. I said I didn't know who they were or why they had targeted me. I said I hoped the police would find them and bring them to justice. The ambulance arrived quickly, and the paramedics took me to the hospital. They put me on a stretcher and loaded me into the vehicle. Sam followed me and said he would stay in touch. He said he would write the story and send it to me. He said he hoped I would recover soon, and he wished me good luck. I thanked him, and then I passed out. I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by doctors and nurses. They told me I had undergone surgery to repair my broken bones, and that I was lucky to be alive. They said I would have to stay in the hospital for several days, and then I would need physical therapy and counseling. They said it would take a long time for me to heal, physically and emotionally. They said I might never be the same again. I felt depressed and hopeless. I wondered if I would ever be able to ride my bike again or deliver pizzas. I wondered if I would ever feel safe again or happy. I wondered if I would ever be able to forget the attack or forgive the attackers. I wondered if I would ever be able to move on, or if I would always be haunted by that day. The police came to talk to me a few days later, and they told me they had made a breakthrough in the case. They said they had found my stolen bike abandoned in an alleyway, and they had been able to get some DNA evidence from it. They said they had also found a witness who had seen the attackers running away from the scene. and he had given them a description. They said they had used this information to track down the two suspects, and they had arrested them and charged them with robbery, violence, and theft of property. They said they had confessed to the crime, and they had said they had done it for fun and for the thrill of it. They said they had no remorse and they had no regrets. I felt angry and disgusted. I couldn't believe that these two men had ruined my life for nothing. I couldn't believe that they had no conscience and no empathy. I couldn't believe that they had enjoyed hurting me and stealing from me. I couldn't believe that they had no respect for me or for anyone. I wanted them to pay for what they had done, and I wanted them to suffer as much as I had. The police asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. I said I wanted them to go to jail and to stay there for a long time. I said I wanted them to learn their lesson and to change their ways. I said I wanted them to apologize and to beg for my forgiveness. I said I wanted justice and I wanted closure. The police said they understood, and they said they would do their best to make that happen. They said they would keep me updated on the progress of the case, and they said they would support me in any way they could. They said they were sorry for what happened to me, and they said they admired my courage and strength. They said they hoped I would recover soon, and they wished me well. I thanked them, and then they left.